Restaurant leadership. What is it? How do you do it? And why is it so important? I'm James Ealing, and this is episode 126 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're really enjoying our series on menu engineering. I know that all of our back catalogue gets a lot of downloads every month. Already, these menu engineering episodes have overtaken a lot of our previous episodes because I think, it's one of those areas that it's very arcane. People like to try and make it into such a difficult, complicated type process when realistically, I would like to think that we're trying to give you some steps that are pretty simple, pretty easy to understand, and give you a real tactical way that you can do some cool menu engineering on your own menu to increase profitability and, ultimately give you the revenue, the profits, and the time back that you want in your restaurant. So taking a short break out from that now because I want to address a target of opportunity that came up this week. Tina and I this week were lucky enough to attend an educational event, ran for 3 days, for business owners to be more successful and to have the kind of lives that we would all like to have. Lots of really successful business people attending, many of the businesses turning over more than $20 million. We got a little bit of a way to go before we're doing that, but we're tracking in the right direction, always growing, which is exciting. Very high caliber attendees from all over Asia, quite a few from Shanghai. I met people from Singapore, New Zealand. Really cool event. The highlight, I think, for Tina and myself was on the Friday morning. We got up super early for a workout session, which was pretty tough because the night before, to onlookers, it might have looked like partying. I'd like to think that we were networking until the wee early hours of the morning. Made the effort to get up, and the training session was run by Michael Klim, Australian Olympic gold medalist, super fast swimmer, and not only was the workout punishingly tough, but he shared a lot of his wisdom and thought about motivation and training and getting that right mental state, which was super cool. One of the sessions started out with the question, what is leadership? Which I thought was a pretty easy question, but the thing that I found really amazing about that was that a lot of people talked about what they thought leadership, what the characteristics of a leader were. No one was able to give the definition of it. And I thought, wow, pretty much everyone in the room, it was their first and main job to lead our organizations. And we never really settled on a rock solid definition of leadership. And this is something that I see with so many of the businesses that we work with, just that lack of understanding about what the leadership role is, why it is important, and how you can do it. So I thought what I'd do in this podcast is talk about some of the characteristics of leadership, why it is such an important thing, and some of the techniques that I use to be a better leader. Some people are natural born leaders. I'm not one of those people. It's a bit of a struggle for me. There's things that I have to do that take me out of my comfort zone. There's things that I know that I'm responsible for, but I just don't like doing them. But at the end of the day, as the owner of the company, as the founder, as the leader, you know what? It kind of falls to my plate. And with only about 22, 23 people across the group, we're not of the size yet where I can sort of get that in, and because it is such a crucial role. So, leadership. What is leadership? The definition that I always run with is one from Dwight D. Eisenhower. So went on to be a president of the United States. Where this came from, though, I think, or the reason that I look to him as an expert on it, is the fact that he was the general in command of the D-Day landing in World War II. Probably one of the most complicated and risky endeavours undertaken by mankind and so important, undertaken by mankind in the 20th century. And what he thought leadership was the art of influencing others to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. And I think that is such a cool definition of what leadership is. You want people to come along and do what you want them to do because that's what they want to do. Now, it's a little bit tricky. In the military, of course, there are some tools to being a leader, and one of them is the rank structure. You can issue lawful general order, and then you can charge people if they don't do what you tell them to do. But there's lots of ways of not doing that. You know, why is it that some people fight and some people don't? Why is it that some people are a lot more creative and others aren't? And when you tell someone to do something, they're going to do it a whole lot better if they want to do it rather than because you've told them to do it. Now, the next thing that we need to cover off on is what is the difference between leaders and managers, because this is something that often gets confused, and I think that managers get a bad rap. Managers are fundamentally important in any organisation. Straight up, they are critical. I know in our organisation, so Tina is one of our key managers within the organisation, and we would go bankrupt about 1,000 times if it wasn't for her putting controls in place from the crazy leadership type people, well, I'm talking about me, who would be coming up with all sorts of weird and wacky ideas. Managers are critical. And it's interesting, as I was doing the research for this podcast, I found an article about the difference between leaders and managers on Forbes. And, you know, it started out all right. They said, here's our 9 differences. And it said, you know, leaders create a vision, managers create goals. Yep, that sounds pretty cool. Leaders are change agents, managers maintain the status quo. Well, that's not really true. Leaders are unique, managers copy. I think that fundamentally undervalues the management process. Leaders take risks, managers control risk. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Leaders are in it for the long haul, managers think short term. I think that's wrong. I know leaders who have acted in the short term as well, and I know managers who are very good at nurturing an organisation for the long term. That one I don't think really stands up. Leaders grow personally, managers rely on existing proven skills. Not true either. I don't think that that's right. Leaders build relationships, managers build systems and processes. Kind of. Leaders coach, managers direct, and leaders create fans, managers have employees. I'm not really a big fan of many of those statements. The way I like to think about it is that one of the things that I say is that I'm concerned about tomorrow. And I'm concerned about tomorrow because I've got a strong team of leaders who worry about today. If I didn't have those managers in place, then today would be awful. There'd be far too many fires to put out. There would be all sorts of dramas, and I wouldn't be able to think about where I need to take the company tomorrow. Managers do create systems and processes because they like to have things that are replicatable. They like to put KPIs in place because that helps drive behavior. I think that many managers have some leadership qualities or exert leadership principles. And same for leaders. There has to be an element of management in the way that you act. Otherwise, you get this disconnect because from what people are meant to be doing today and where people are going to go tomorrow. Because that's fundamentally what I think leadership is all about. So what we're going to do is break that leadership process up into a couple of areas so that you can just, really have a think about them in your business, how you are responsible for this role and the way that that impacts the people in your team. So the first thing is strategy. So what is the strategy of your company? Now, a lot of people get wrapped around the axles about the difference between strategy and tactics. Strategy, much more of a leadership thing. Tactics, much more a management thing, which I think is an interesting way of breaking it up. The way I look at the difference between strategy and tactics that can be helpful to you is that tactics is fighting the battle right. Strategy is fighting the right battle. So what are the kind of products and services that you're going to deliver tomorrow? Who are your customers going to be tomorrow? So managers are going to be looking at today. They're going to be looking at, how are my labor costs going? How are my margins looking? What is our workforce utilization? How much cash in the bank do we have? What is our cash flow looking like? They're your sort of management features or functions. For the leader, though, where is everything going? Where is it going to be in 5 years' time? So one of the things I've often talk about is the thing that made Wayne Gretzky the best hockey player in the world. And he said that everyone skated to where the puck was. He skated to where the puck was going to be. And when he got there, there was no one else there. The puck popped out. It came straight to him. And there's him. There he is all by himself. You don't want to be chasing the puck. You want to be the guy or gal who is skating your business to where the puck is going to be. So what is technology how is technology changing? How is the regulatory environment changing? How is your labor force changing? They're just some of the things that can have a fundamental impact on your business. How are your customers changing? Are your customers going out of business? Is there a lot more of them? Is there a lot less? Are their needs, wants, and desires changing? Are their abilities to pay for your products changing? Are they no longer going to use your products because there's a better technology out there that they would rather use? These are the things that you need to be thinking about so that you can start gearing the company up to be where the puck is going to be in 5 years' time. Really important job. In the old days, we used to do a SWOT analysis, and that would enable us to sort of look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your company. It's good, but I still think it's a bit of a snapshot in time. One of the things that I think, and I still think it's worthwhile doing that process because some interesting things can come out of it. You either should do it, I think, either annually, kind of look at it, the way that things are going, or have it open continually, sort of refer back to it and see how each of those quadrants is changing. It's definitely not one of those things that you kind of do because you want to get a loan from the bank and then you put it away and never look at it again for the next 10 years. That's not the kind of tool that it should be, or not the way that the tool should be used. The other thing that I really think is cool is the business model canvas. Very simply, it looks at your key partners, your key activities, key resources, your value proposition, channels, customer relationships, customer segments, revenue streams, and cost structure. It's a really, really good tool for asking a lot of questions about your business. And, it's one of those things. I've actually got one up on the wall in our office because I think it is such a powerful tool. I like to look at it as I'm walking by. And typically, the correct way of using this is you've got a big one there and people put post-it notes in there. And they're just little ideas of things that you can do. An amazing way of creating things like, we make this product, maybe it's useful to these people. How would we sell it into this customer segment? You can go out and find a whole heap of new customers just by asking that question. Channels. Far too many people don't think about the channels that they can use to get their product and service into the hands of the customers that they want to. There's potentially lots that you can do in your business to create some pretty cool channels. That's a really good way of asking a lot of questions that stimulate a good strategic discussion for your business. Now, next one, culture. The leader is responsible for the culture in your business. Now, I know the question that you're asking. What's a culture? Well, there's lots of ways of defining it. It's not strictly defined, but it's the vision, values, norms, systems, symbols, language, assumptions, environment, beliefs, and habits. That put all of those things together, and it's a bit of a hodgepodge of kind of things to talk about, but they are what makes up your culture. The thing I like to run with is it's the way that we do things around here. How do people within the organisation relate to each other? Is it a friendly environment? Is it a dog environment? If someone's having trouble, are people likely to help them? Or are they likely to let them founder? Now, as the leader, you are fundamentally responsible for the culture. And so there's two things that are really important around that. One is the way that you act, because if you're treating a customer badly, or if you're derogatory of of someone in your team, people kind of think that that's okay and that they can treat their subordinates in that way because, well, that's what the boss does. It's got to be cool to treat people like that. It's the little things. Who takes out the rubbish? What car parking spaces do people get? What are the privileges that the boss has? Remuneration can be a big one as well. But I've got to tell you, the number one thing that I find that has helped me in building the culture of our organisation is the values. We've had these values for a very, very long time. And it's the one thing that I say is, really not negotiable in our organisation. So when we talk about our values, they are fun, learning, ownership, communications. They've been around with us for a very, very long time. They mean different things internally and externally. I only wanted a few values. I didn't want to, some organisations have 12 values, and I think that, 90% of the people couldn't even name half of the values in an organisation like that. In our organisation, fun, learning, ownership, communication. The way that I try and drive that is, so we hire for the values, train for capability. Sometimes, there'll be a skill set that we need, but that person really, really, really needs to have a good chance of fitting in with our values. When we hire them, I say, you're going to be working with people who really love these values. They share them and they practice them. And I've given them a solemn promise that if we get someone into the team who doesn't share our values, I'll get them out. So it's really important that you share our values. We fire for values as well. When someone has an exit interview and we're exiting them, I'll say, I don't think that you were able to take ownership of some of the issues, or the way that you communicated either internally or with customers or both was below the level that we require of someone on our team. And just a little side note there, one of the things with our exiting process, I always say there's no surprises. So there's nothing that's raised in an exit interview that hasn't already been raised on multiple occasions. You need to work on your communication. Here are 3 examples of communication that you had that I just didn't think were very good. And our review system is set up around our values so that, we can give examples of where someone has shared our values and done a really good job with it. And more importantly, what is it that they could do better to be more closely aligned with those values? And, what's the training program to get them around that? What's their professional development process around that? That's one of the ways that we try and increase the way that people can share our values, because that they are baked into the strategy for the organisation. The people who come into your organisation are going to have a big part to play in the culture. And I know that we've talked about firing and hiring. The big thing I do, hire slowly, fire quickly. One of the big mistakes that we made early on in the company is that we would have a vacancy and we'd be desperate to fill it, and it'd be like, let's just get someone in. And then you'd hire someone and it'd be just because you were desperate, you weren't going through the proper process for interviewing, you weren't reference checking, or you knew that they were kind of dodgy, but you were taking them anyway because we needed someone. And now, I try and build as much redundancy into our team across all of the positions that we've got, so that we've got the capability to be 1 down or 2 down if need be. Not that we normally are, but we like to have that redundancy in there so that we're not desperate to hire someone. It's always a measured process where we can look and say, you know what, this person's maybe. And because one of the things that we like to do in our hiring is maybe means no. Should we hire this person? Maybe. They might be good. Well, in the interview, it means that either we failed to find the thing that makes us think that they'd be epic, or they failed to demonstrate those values. So hire slowly and, fire quickly. One of the biggest mistakes that I have made, and it has cost me years and years of progress within the company, is just having someone in there and just thinking, this person's okay, but not great, or less than okay even, and not getting rid of them. If I had my time over again, that's probably the number one thing that I would have done, is that I would have fired a few people a lot quicker, because I just didn't take responsibility. I didn't take ownership for the team that we've got. One of the things, you can't complain about your company if you're not surrounded by A players. You've got to be having epic people in the team. It's the one thing as a business owner, it's one thing that where we've got a little bit of freedom there. And I think we've really got to be driving and making sure that we've got epic people on our team, because they're going to build an epic culture. Epic culture is going to create the epic profits, the epic growth, the epicness that you want in your organization. So when it comes to culture, just remember a couple of things. The way that you act, you're on display for everyone in your team. The actions that you take, the way that you speak to people, they're going to pick up on that, and that is going to become, in some ways, the norm within your organization. And so you need to be very mindful of the way that you act, the way that you behave. Secondly, think about the kind of people that you hire. Think about making sure that they're going to be a good fit for the culture of your organization. And one of the things is they may not be a good fit. They may be where you want to take the culture of the organization. That's your role as the leader, to work out where you are today and where you want to go tomorrow, and then start driving the organization towards that tomorrow. If your culture's got a few issues, and I know in our company, a long time ago, we had a pretty ordinary culture, and it really hit me really hard one day when I woke up, the fact that I just didn't like coming to work anymore, because the people around me in general weren't the kind of people that I wanted to be working with. Some of them weren't nice people, some of them weren't that gifted. And so we took a long journey to remediate that, starting to weed out some of the bad apples, and starting to, try and inspire some of the people just to be better employees, better team members, better people. Not easy, and it took years and years and years to do that. Now, the last tool in the tool bag of the leader that we're going to talk. So we talked about strategy and culture. Last one, and I think is really important, and that is the vision. Vision is going to be your clear articulation of what tomorrow looks like. And, it's so important, because that vision is what people in your company should be coming to work for. That's what I believe. I always say to people, you've got a job that, there's a role of, you've got roles and responsibilities that you need to be performing, but I don't want you to come to work to do those things. I want you to come to work because of our vision. Now, our vision, the vision within our company, is articulated through our BHAG. So we've got a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. I think that's from some of the work that Jim Collins did. Our big, hairy goal is to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. So it's an aspirational BHAG. It's a little bit more difficult to articulate. Once again, though, what we've done with our values was we had them mean one thing internally, one thing externally. And we do the exact same thing for our team members. When we're discussing the BHAG, it means one thing externally and it means another thing internally. Our BHAG, to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. And when we talk about that, so we work with business owners, and it's very stressful running a business. There's lots of pressures. Small business owners are expected to be experts on so many areas that is really difficult for them to be able to be across everything. And so they need to outsource some of the core components of their business. And that's the bit that we do. What we want to do is, rather than just being a company that's going to take care of some stuff, we want to really take ownership of that stuff. And we want that to articulate in a way that we can help the business owner see growth. We can help move the business owner towards what it is that they want for their business. And because it is a little bit aspirational, a little bit, it's not a KPI driven thing. We haven't said anything like, we want to do $100 million in sales. We haven't said that we want to be the number one in our market. It's the fact that we want to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. So one of my jobs is to always, when I'm talking to a customer and they say, wow, you helped me do this, this, and this, and it was such a pain, and now I can do that and that. I bring that back to the team and say, you know what, this is some fascinating feedback from a customer. We've really made a meaningful difference in their lives. And when he talks about it, he has said the difference that it has made for him. So I try and make it a little bit more tangible for our team. And part of that is, the process that we've taken for feedback. We'll make sure that customers are getting feedback calls so that we can work out. Now, part of it is, and the main reason is a quality assurance type thing. Are we doing the job that we're meant to be doing? Does the customer perceive that we're doing the job that we're meant to be doing? And are they happy with the job that we're doing for them? But out of that, the team that go out and get that feedback, every now and then those little nuggets of gold come back where we have made a meaningful difference. And it might be, someone who's planning to take a holiday, or someone who is being able to cut back in the number of hours that they've been able to do. And you know what? We've had multiple occasions where someone's been able to sell their business and they've been able to get a really good price on it. And part of it has been work that we have done to be able to get them there. And I just think, wow, that's really cool. And it is something that our team really resonates with them. We try and attract the kind of people who want to be helpful, who want to be able to make that meaningful difference. And, that's across everyone, whether it's, support, whether it's in marketing, whether it's application development, graphic design, all of the kind of bits and bobs that we do. Everyone within the team is trying to work towards that BHAG. So there you have it, the quick take on business leadership for you. So hopefully, there's some points there that you're going to be able to take away and have a think about, and hopefully, I think it's made a massive difference in our business. Leadership is one of those skills that in small business is sadly lacking. And we see that in things like, companies that are unable to retain good staff, companies that are unable to maintain a competitive edge for very long, and companies that just aren't profitable. Leadership, I think, is fundamental to all of those things. So have a think about where you want your company to be. Have a think, I've said this on multiple occasions, make sure you've got your personal goals written down, make sure that you're moving towards them, because if you're not, then it makes it really hard to create the kind of company plan that is going to articulate with your personal goals. As the business owner, your personal goals should be above the business goals. That business goal should drive the strategy for how you're going to get there. Then you do that gap analysis about what is it that we don't do today that we need to do tomorrow. Right, we need to start building the capability, the capacity to be able to do that. Who are tomorrow's customers? Where are they? What are they going to be buying? Those sort of really big, airy-fairy type questions. And you know what? I find that the team really get behind it when they can see us starting to do some things that are new. It's like, yeah, this is cool. It creates that excitement within the team. And that's part of our culture, is that we embrace that change. Some people get scared by change, but, we've got a culture that really embraces it, because we're continually telling stories about, hey, you remember when we used to do this? And it's like, and we laugh about it. It was cutting edge for us back then, but it's like, yeah, pretty sure we do a bit better job of it today because of the fact that we go through this process. Because learning is one of our key values. We're always bringing in new skills into the company. A couple of books to read that I would highly recommend. The first one would be Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. That is our Bible. We try and run with that as hard and as fast as we can. And straight up, we don't do a very good job of it. I reckon that we're probably about 50% away through all of the processes and things that you need to be putting in place to be 100% a scaling up type company. That's really frustrating, because I reckon 3 years ago we were at about 60%. But you know what? The company's grown, the company's changed, and there's some work that we need to go back to get some of the processes, some of the things, some of the thinking back in place to be able to get us to continue to grow. It has seen us grow significantly, has seen us have increases in profitability massively. And that's why we're super excited about the process of going through it again, and I'd like to get to 100%. We'll probably fail, but it'd be epic if we got to 80%, because knowing where we are now, those processes, they're very, very powerful. So scaling up, the other one I would read is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It's really going to help you with that, the culture piece, the vision piece, and create a significant difference in the people you've got in your team and the way that they're going to work as team members. That's about it. I'd really like to hear your thoughts about it. Leadership is a really, really tricky thing to do. I've spent a long time studying leadership, and I reckon that I only know a fraction of what there is to know. So keen to continue the conversation, whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, wherever you're sort of hooking up with us. One of the big mistakes that I've seen in some small businesses, one of the reasons why they've failed to thrive, and stagnated, even though they may have a really great product or a really great team, is the fact that the owner of the organization didn't realize that they were also the leader. And once they've understood that, once they've started doing some of those leadership things, that's when the company really blossoms. So that's about it. I will leave you with those thoughts, and hopefully you'll have a busy week. If you got something out of today's podcast, please like and share it. If you see it on Facebook or LinkedIn, that'd be really great. Leave a review on iTunes. It makes a massive difference to us as we try and get the word out to small business owners around the world. You have a glorious week. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.